Hey, and welcome back to VFX Tutors. I'm Josh, and I'm sorry it's been quite a long time since I've done any tutorials. Been really quite busy with work and other things, but hopefully we should get this Booble project wrapped up today. So we've gone through and done everything in the project. We've modeled it. Well, I haven't animated it because I just haven't had time, but we've textured it and done all that and the rendering. And so now we're just going to go into multi-pass compositing. So I wouldn't really necessarily say this was a compositing tutorial, more of a slap comp. We're going to just go through and put all our passes together in the most basic and quick way. Then you'll see how you can sort of adjust all the layers. But yeah, I'm not a compositor, but I can do enough to get myself through the day. But yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to rebuild all our passes into our final beauty pass, and we'll just go through and see what we can do. So I've got Nuke open here, so the first thing that I'm going to do is just you can press tab and read. I'm just going to start reading in my nodes. Okay, so I've rendered them all out. So I've got my master layer and my AO layer. Ooh. So I'm just going to bring in my master layer, and I've got loads in here because I just rendered off loads, but we won't need all these. So I'm just going to select my diffuse direct. And I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible. And you'll notice that this is just our diffuse, nothing fancy at all. So the first thing that we really want to do when we start bringing in things, or some of our renders, is straight away add a unpremo onto it. I will go through these sort of things at a later date, but you'll see when I turn them off and on, it's easier to sort of explain. Cool. So we've loaded in that, and that's obviously that's our first pass. And so now what we'll do, we'll read in our diffuse indirect. Should copy and paste this. And if I just view that, you can sort of see you can't really see much unless I stop it up. You can see what it's actually bringing up here. So it's being able to adjust the very small things in your comp. So we've loaded in our first two nodes, and probably one of the first things that we really do want to do also is keep everything super organized. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a backdrop. And hopefully this shouldn't be a super long tutorial. So if you haven't used backdrops before, they're great. Good for keeping everything organized. And select your backdrop node, and we'll just call this diffuse. You can call it whatever you want to recognize. I'm just going to put it big letters so I can see. And I'm just going to try and keep this as tidy as possible. Cool, so we've got our two diffuse things in there, and we can't really see much, so we need to actually merge these together. Like I say, this is going to be super basic, so if you already know a lot of comp already, this is probably not going to help you. This is just a sort of beginner's guide to get your passes together. So I'm just going to bring in a merge node. And we want to make sure that we're putting these, because you've got A and B. So A merge over A over B. So we want to make sure that we put these in the right order. So I'm going to put my A over B. So if I view that, we can't really see a huge amount of difference. It's mostly because our material is actually a metal material. So a lot of our actual color and highlights will be coming from our specular pass. And yeah, we'll get to that bit in a minute. So you can see we've had a merge node. This is merged, but it's not done the particular operation that we want. So if we double click on our merge and we go to operation, you can see it automatically goes to over. So we don't want it over, we want it to add or go sort of plus to the whatever A over we're laying over the top. I'm probably not going to explain this very well because I'm not a comper, but so this is why this is kind of more of a slap comp sort of tutorial. But yeah, cool. So now we've got our diffuse, and just out of that, I'll just put it in the center. So, like I said before, our most of our color and actual look is some metal material. So what we can do, we can just add another backdrop, and we'll call this Specular. Cool. And if you haven't guessed, we're going to load in our Specular nodes. So we've got our Specular indirect and direct. So I'm just loading my Specular direct. And I'm going to load in my... Sorry, I got a cough at the moment. My, well, I've not had a cough. I've had a cough for about 6 months. It will not go away. Cool, and we're kind of in this very similar sort of situation here, where we've got our Specular direct and our Specular indirect here. You can see a little bit more on here. So, yeah, again, I'm just going to copy our arm pre-melt. Not join them together. Not that it matters what order they go in, it just hurts my brain if they're not in the right order. And we'll add another merge. And we want to go A, B, we press that. We can now see we've got our spec pass. So now we've got our diffuse and our specular. We go between the two. And I think on this one, I might be wrong. I think this one stays as over, but we can put it as... we'll put it as plus now. I think that might actually be over, but we'll see how much difference it makes. Cool. So our first part of the comp, we'll just merge these together. So we're going to go merge. Ooh. So we've got another merge, and we want to go... because we kind of want, it's mostly going to be our specular driving the color. We're going to do it. That's the reason why we're going A over B, and kind of, you can do it either way. And if you want to make these little sort of dots to tidy it up, you just hold Control and click on the sort of line. Cool. So now if we put that on over, you can sort of see it. It's not. It's sort of blending them together. But if we change this to plus. It should, so we kind of got a, and it's looking pretty good already, straight out of the box. Cool, and we'll just go through all the other passes. So at the moment, we haven't got any eyes on here because we did this as an emission pass. And we don't currently have our alpha for it. So we can convert these. But what I will do, I'll just create a, because we also did a an albedo. It's basically an albedo for, I think, metal objects. It's just going to be absolute white anyway. So let's go to our albedo. And this is not like this is just sort of comp things that get me through the day. I'm sure there will be, if you go onto the Discord, there's quite a few compositors that can probably help you out and get you in a much better place than doing this. But for a start, I think this should be okay. And you can see that our albedo is pure white. So now what we need to do, we need to add this to, I'm making a bit of a mess here. Add this to our comp. So I'm just going to call this alpha. Hopefully this shouldn't be a hugely long tutorial. I'll try and get through it as fast as possible. Cool. So what we need to do, we need to copy this, but not as a color. We need to convert this to effectively an alpha and place it onto here. So what we're going to use a copy. And we're going to copy A to B. So now if we go on that, we'll notice that we don't actually have anything there, because we need to go copy channel, and let's just copy our red, and let's copy it to, I think we only need to do red. Cool. Now we have our alpha on here. And that will copy all the way through now. So now we've got this pretty basic, like super basic comp of our really simple passes. But hopefully this should be, if you've not done this before, hopefully this should help you on your path to compositing some of your own CG stuff. But now you can sort of see how, just with these passes, if you wanted to edit any of these, let's just stick it, not on that one. Let's just say, you wanted to boost it up just in the direct spec, you can. So it's kind of, it gives you way more control this way. But let's finish setting up the rest. So because we want to kind of get it, see what we get out of the box first. So now we've done that, let's bring in one of our other passes. So you can render the ambient occlusion from here, but as we can see, our ambient occlusion is pretty much bringing up everything from our pass, and we can split that out, excuse me, quite easily. But I actually rather if we have it from our AO layer that we created, you can see we also just have it for our character. So we can use both if we want. So we can see the difference between either. Cool. And let's say we'll stick we can unpremill, and we'll just use this one for now. And I'll just bring in a backdrop. I'll keep that. And hope you guys have enjoyed this series. I know it's been super long. I'll fully understand if you've really not actually watched it, because it's probably one of the longest ever tutorial series ever to be created. But if you need something that goes from start to finish, this will probably help you quite a lot. So I will actually keep these a little bit separate, because these are more utility passes. And we might not necessarily need so we're just quite anal with keeping it tidy. Cool. So we've got our ambient occlusion pass. So to add this to our comp, we're going to add another merge. So very much that. You can see that this is currently not the correct operator for this merge node, so we need to go, sure we got that, and we want to go to multiply. And you probably can't quite see it very much right now, but it will be boosting all those sort of areas. But we'll just go through and we'll add them all on first, and then we can sort of play around with it. So at the moment, mostly what we're missing now is our eye, and that was like, you can put that as just another pass, but I put it under the emission because you can also just do it that way, or you can do it lots of other ways. And that's the wrong one. I think we are in the AO. Yeah, I forgot to turn off all the things for the AO pass. So you should just have the eye. And this allows us to change the brightness, color, and if you want to have it pink, flashing, you can. And have it for the glow if you want. Cool. So we're just going to go through and saying this, and pre-mult onto here. And what we want to do is add another merge node. Cool. We don't really want it as over. Let's add it as a plus. Then probably one of the ones that you'll mostly use for your utility ones is probably going to be your Z depth and your shadow. So we'll just read in our Z depth now. Although we probably won't use it in this shot because there's almost next to no Z depth in it at all. But we'll still load it in just in case you have shots that you would like to add it in. Oop. Come on. What's happened here? Cool. And one thing you'll notice that it's kind of it's pretty so if we actually bring up, we can just stick a grade on it, sorry. How if I actually go on it? So yeah. You can see that we've got our Z depth in it, but there's almost like nothing in it, to be honest. And we probably won't use it as much. So what we will do, I don't want to move that. We will the way the Z depth works, we can add it to the main comp without having it into there, so we can keep it in here. So what we'll do, we'll copy it over here again. We'll just go from B to A. This time we will copy our red to our depth Z. Basically, this will now copy all this data over to our Z depth channel. So now if we press 1 on that, so this is at the moment our sort of comp. So if we click on our Z depth, oh. Cool. It's brought it here in the red channel. And the same with our alpha is still there. Cool. So what we need to do now is we've pretty much added all our passes to our CG. So the next thing we would kind of want to do is bring in our footage, and obviously the shadows that kind of go with the footage. So what we'll do, we'll just read in the plate. That's B08. And we don't need the whole sequence. I think we only did it on 1018. Cool. So now we've got our back plate in. And we'll just add a back drop for it. So this is going to be pretty simple. This is definitely more of a slap comp more than anything else. I would not really say this is a thorough compositing tutorial. So this is definitely to get you going, not to get you into comp. But there, if you have any questions and stuff like that regarding this sort of stuff, drop it in the chat. Go onto Discord. There's actually loads of compositors that are in the group at the moment. It's all quite active. So what we'll notice here as well that our resolution is 5120. It's quite a large plate, and we've got a different resolution here, and I think that's probably because we rendered the wrong resolution. But we can just reformat. I think not remove. Which I can. It's the problem with doing these things so far apart. It's kind of I've kind of forgotten some things of what's the reason and what's going on. Cool. So now we're at the same resolution. So we have our plate, and the main thing that we need to bring in with our plate is our shadow, because we won't be adding that. The shadow on the plate will be, I've just kind of done it separate, but say if you have any other, this is not a solid, you should comp this way sort of thing. It's just to get you going. Images, that's the layer. And what we want to bring in is we've got a shadow, we've got loads and loads in here. So let's bring in our shadow map first. And let's see what these other passes are. Apparently there's nothing in that one. Maybe that's because that's not so. A lot of these may have just been thrown in straight away. So we've got the shadow mask here, which we probably don't need a lot of this. We'll just go with the standard shadow matte for now because I don't want to complicate things. And probably won't be able to help you really that much apart from doing the basic slap comp. But hopefully you guys will, after this, be in a good place to start doing your own sort of slap comps and stuff. Cool. So the first thing that we want to do with this is, well, if we merge this, we'll see the problems that we get. So sure, we have need to reformat that as well. Cool. And generally with a shadow node, you'll want to multiply. And you can see it's kind of all a bit messed up. So what you want to do before, you want to invert it. Nope, not there. Cool. So we've now got our invert, then pre-mult on that. So now you can see, oh, why is it frozen? You can see now that our shadows, it's what it's done. We've inverted, we've got our shadows here, and we've pre-multiplied it. So it masks out our character. And so we reformat it so it's the same size. And let's just tidy this up. Cool. So we've pretty much done it. All we need to do is merge these two together. And you don't necessarily have to be super crazy with these nodes, but hopefully when we go on this, it should all merge together. Cool. And yeah, at the moment, this is pretty much it. We can see that it's not 100% perfect. There are a few things that we can do to sort of improve this. And now, if you wanted to go through and sort of adjust this, you can. So what I will do is actually sorry, you probably think I'm a bit crazy. Just going to tidy it up. Where did that backdrop go? And what we'll do, we'll call this out because that's where all our final stuff's going to go. So I think at the moment all I really want to do is I'm going to stick a it's going to grade up. You also want to make sure that you're on like a good monitor as well. My monitor is not particularly amazing, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring up the gain slightly. Just to sort of keep it in the same sort of similar brightness, maybe a little bit less. Cool. So quite happy with that, but then you'll notice one of the most important things now we have to do is sort of, you'll notice that our shadows, the natural shadows here, this will be into like, we won't do this in this one, but what we can do for now is make sure our shadows are matching the same amount of density. So we need to go over to our shadows. Let's go to our multiply, and you can do this by grading or changing it in the mix. So you want to try and get this the same. Same hue. And obviously now this sort of shows up things that we kind of need to fix further on. So we do have these sort of edges here where it might have been not particularly well modeled to the actual set. So I suppose we could stick a cheeky little blur in there and see if that, not in that. We'll stick a cheeky little blur in there, see if that might alleviate some, or just not make it as obvious. So it's still blatantly there. It kind of disappears and we can sort of cheat it. You can probably do that a little bit better as well. But then the other sort of thing we've got here is this very clear line. This could take, I'm not entirely sure how to fix this properly, but we could just stick a roto onto it. This is probably not the way to do it, but let's see what it does. It's probably unlikely that that shadow is completely flat, so cool. Let's see what we've got here. Let's just try and change the opacity so it matches. Like I say, this is probably not going to be a very good fix, to be honest. But like I say, if you've got probably better, if you've got questions for this sort of stuff, probably best to stick it in the Discord chat. And we can see what someone else can do. Yeah, it's pretty awful. I'd say that's not my finest. Let's see if we can make that a little bit better. Because obviously this is a still image, you can pretty much cheat and do a lot of stuff with it as well. But obviously, like, if you're doing shots, you probably don't want to do it this way. So yeah, it's probably not the best way. But we'll just do something now temporarily for it. And if you really wanted to go into it, you can just add a roto paint as well. So we're not going to it's not a full-on comp tutorial. So we could change the opacity to like 0.5. Let's just make that edge disappear. I know this is not very good. But it's obviously anyway. I'm not going to go into this because this is going a bit off track. Yeah, that could be something for something else. But we've got our shadows in there looking pretty nice. I'll tell you what we will do. You notice there's some weird graffiti. Let's use our roto paint to get rid of that. Cool. So I'm just holding control. Let's go to 50 again. And I'm just going to pick up part here. And I'm just going to paint this out. And now we've got that weird graffiti gone. Cool. So our next thing, like once you're happy with it, I know we haven't done really much of the shadows. I don't really want to mess around with it too much. We've pretty much done our basic slab comp. I know we've got some shadow stuff here, but let's not worry about that. So the next thing we want to do is not read. We want to let's stick a reformat on the end, just so it's going out 100%. Everything else is clipped off that we don't need, any overscan and stuff. Also completely forgot that we probably need to bring in our distortion, which we forgot. Where is it? TMM, Nuke, open. Cool, so we don't want to put that there. After everything, basically, the distortion will go on the very last thing of your CG. And you can see it's pretty much not done anything. You can see the difference it's made. But it's something. And what we'll do, we'll just this is mostly for like if someone else picks up your script. I'm just a bit crazily anal with how tidy it is. Cool. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, you can go through and do your own little things. And so the next thing that we want to do is write this out. So I'm just going to select my right node. And go to comp. Oh, want to go to, let's make a new folder. Let's just create a file. Multipass comp. Cool, and we'll just call this exactly what the shot is, which is BO8 comp VO1.1234 hashes, so it knows it's obviously that we're not actually doing it as when you're doing it as an image sequence, you would do it as that .exr. So we're pretty much done. Everything's all set up here, and all we have to do now is go render. And that should just, yeah. We've only got one image in there. And we get input, click OK. So that's going to go render. We're only doing one frame, so it should be super quick. So now if we go read, we've got a comp. And now we have our final image. So I know it's only one image, one frame, but we've gone through and it's gone through pretty much the basics of getting yourself a slap comp through. So this is actually taking longer than I thought, 41 minutes. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this, and it's an opener to what you can do with compositing and stuff. Like I say, this is not really a compositing tutorial, but it's more of a slap comp, but it should open you up to a bigger world of compositing, because now you can edit all your stuff quite easily. So hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help. Thank you for watching. This has been an epically long series of tutorials. I know they've not really got that many views on, but I wanted to make sure it's complete, because that's just what OCD does to you. You need to finish what you start. So hopefully in the next ones there'll be much quicker sort of tutorials. But yeah, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Like I say, it really does help, and really appreciate you guys for watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's great. You get to see all the updates of stuff that I'm doing. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.